But also, I don't have any children. If I had children, there'd be no show. I could not afford a family on.
It's a little more difficult. Yeah, for sure.
There's no way.
We did our financial stream last week, and it was like YouTube made like $1,000 in profit, and then my company made like $6,000 in profit. So if I didn't do videography and other things, like it would be impossible.
We had the first year we were profitable. We had back then, I think you had to pay into Patreon would only pay into other digital accounts. I wouldn't pay straight to bank that year, I guess. Oh, okay. And so it had to go to PayPal. So they both generated 1099s for the same amount of money, and it triggered an audit. So the audit came like 4 years later, though, during
COVID. That happened to me too. Yeah.
But they hit me during COVID. So the IRS is telling me, we're going to send you to prison, essentially, because they kept sending me notices. And I would send responses like, hey, it's just a duplicated amount. Here's the amount. I can track it all. No one's there. It goes through inbox, and then no one responds. But the automated system is still sending me a summons to court. So I have to go get an attorney, and then the state gets involved, and they want to audit, and they rip me apart left and right. I'm spending all the attorney's like, oh, this will be done. It'll be like $2,000 out of your pocket. $15,000 later. Of either paying between the attorney and them or whatever else. And it's just like that year, that was the year that we first went into the quote unquote black, because I worked so hard that year because we didn't have Bruno the Animator or anything else. I picked like one night a week on average to not sleep is how I did that year. And then my net profit going in the black was like $10,000. And now COVID's hit, and somehow in the chaos of all of this, between paying the government because of receipts I can't get because it's COVID time, and paying the attorney because he has to file over and over and over and argue, and it became a whole mess. I made negative $50,000 retroactively, and I went, "This is slavery," and I empathize with Papa Ted, like Uncle Ted, and our friends now. Like I'm like,
you know what? I'm gonna start mailing some packages around.
Yeah. I was just like, I worked so hard for that year, and they took all of it. Like I was so serious.
Yeah. Well, so that's actually very funny, because a very similar thing happened to me where the IRS was like, "Hey, by the way, you owe us $30,000," and I'm like, "No, I don't. Nope, that's never happened. I've never had a surplus of anything." But I was incredibly lucky that through the service that I use, they had a where they would defend you in an audit automatically.
Yeah.
So I didn't pay a dime out of pocket. They settled it with the IRS. I showed them all the receipts and everything, and that was it. So I lucked out in that regard. So hearing you spend $15,000, like, whew.
It was friggin' awful. Like the whole thing was just such a mess. And I'm just going, and I get it. Like I was working such crazy hours. I had bad bookkeeping. So there was some of it was on me in that regard. But if they had hit me the year before COVID, I would have been able to just go into the IRS office and say, hey, the discrepancy you're seeing is almost to the dime the amount of money that was duplicated on these two accounts. Because that's what happened with the state. The state let me go into their office. So when I went to the state's office and showed it to them, they went, oh, okay, we don't need you here at all. We're fine. I was like, okay, good. And then I made the cardinal mistake because I was just like, now I just got to sort it with the Fed. And they're like, oh, wait, the Fed saw this? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, we'll wait on them. And I went, what? So then the state was like, well, they're going to audit. We're going to, like, oh my God. Like I was so close to being done with half of it. I was like, okay, I've learned to shut up. Like, just shut up, you idiot. So, but if I had walked into a Fed office, I guarantee you, if I could have just walked in like you normally could, but now we've got all the mandate, blah, blah, whatever. I was just like, I couldn't show anybody my work. I was like, just look, please, God, just look.
It's like, I have these pieces of paper, please,
like,
please observe.
No, I had to pay unbelievable legal fees.
You gotta nail it to the IRS door like Martin Luther.
My job is to talk about old guns, but I spend more and more of my time just chasing flies.
You feel like you should be able to just show them a copy of your bank records and be like you can tell that I didn't make the money you think I did.
Right? Yeah, I know. Oh no,
it should be that simple. Like
utterly,
there is no,
especially because that year there was no gross. Like the gross just wasn't there. Like the gross never showed up. So like I get it if you're saying, hey, you claim these deductions and they're not real and blah blah. Okay, fine. That's all right. No, it's literally this money doesn't exist. You're yelling at me for an imaginary amount of money, which is 2x all the money I
Correct.
had.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
you doubled my money, like, not me.
Mm.
And the worst is trying to talk to the two accounts because I'm like, can either of you guys just remove this from the damn 1099 so I can submit? Because that was the other thing. They're like, well, just get us a corrected 1099. Neither of the digital whatever, between Patreon and PayPal,
Yeah.
they're both like, but you did receive that money through us. So I'm going, yes, but it wasn't income
Yes.
both times for me.
Yeah,
But from their
you don't
perspective, they're like,
understand
yeah,
how
but it
everything
was
is
like
doubled.
we got this payment from this other guy.
Mhm.
They've since cleaned it up. Like,
Well,
but
you
I
know what
also
is funny
I don't
is
go from digital to digital anymore either. But
yeah. It's like you're the guy arguing to the minimum wage worker on the other end, like, who just doesn't care. It's just his job to make sure you get a 1099, or he's just, answering emails or whatnot.
man, there's some guy in India. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, that too, who does not care, right? He gets paid regardless.
Yeah.